I've been rich and broke more than anybody I know.
From Mike Tyson blowing through $300 million to Evander Holyfield losing his mansion, cars, and every championship dollar. In this video, we're looking at the legends who reached the top of the fight game, only to lose everything outside the ring. Mike Tyson. Let's begin with the man who has become, in many ways, the archetype of boxing's financial cautionary tale, Iron Mike Tyson. Born on the mean streets of Brooklyn's Brownsville neighborhood, Tyson rose from absolutely nothing to become the youngest heavyweight champion in history at just 20 years old. By 1987, he had unified the WBC, WBA, and IBF heavyweight titles, and the world lay prostrate at his feet. Over the course of his career from 1985 to 2005, Tyson grossed at least $430 million in purses, equivalent to roughly $700 million in today's dollars when you account for inflation. Add in endorsements, and you're looking at a man who should have been set for 100 lifetimes. And yet, by 2003, Mike Tyson filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy with somewhere between $23 and $27 million in debt. How does a man lose that much money? The answer reads like a fever dream of excess and exploitation. Tyson spent approximately $50 million on his lavish lifestyle alone, and that's being conservative. He purchased 3 Bengal tigers at $70,000 each, plus another $200,000 annually, just to keep them fed and cared for. He threw himself a 30th birthday party that cost $410,000. He accumulated $6.3 million in luxury vehicles, including a Ferrari F50 that would later sell at auction for $4.6 million, but the excess was only part of the equation. Tyson was hemorrhaging $400,000 per month every single month on his entourage alone between 1995 and 1997. His promoter, Don King, allegedly siphoned off millions through contracts that would make a predatory lender blush. His divorce from Monica Turner cost him $9 million. The IRS came calling for $13.4 million in back taxes. "I was young and reckless," Tyson later reflected. "That's just how I lived my life." The remarkable part of Tyson's story, however, is his resurrection. After hitting rock bottom, addiction, depression following his daughter's tragic death in 2009, Tyson reinvented himself entirely. Today, his net worth hovers around $10 to $30 million, rebuilt through entertainment ventures. His Tyson 2.0 cannabis company that reportedly generates $900,000 monthly in revenue. And yes, even a return to the ring for exhibition bouts. His 2024 fight against Jake Paul reportedly earned him a $20 million payday. But Tyson wasn't the only heavyweight titan brought to his knees by financial chaos. His greatest rival faced a collapse even more staggering. Evander Holyfield. If Mike Tyson represents reckless youth, then Evander Holyfield represents something perhaps even more tragic. A man who simply couldn't stop spending, even as the warning signs flashed neon bright all around him. The real deal earned his nickname through unyielding grit and technical mastery across a 27-year career that saw him become the only boxer to win undisputed world titles in 2 weight classes and the only 4-time heavyweight champion in history. Holyfield earned an estimated $230 to $513 million in career purses. Let that number sink in for a moment. $500 million. Enough money to fund a small nation's healthcare system. And yet, as of 2025, his net worth has plummeted to approximately $1 million, a 99% collapse from his peak. The centerpiece of Holyfield's excess was his 54,000 square foot Fayetteville, Georgia mansion, a modern-day castle sprawling across 235 acres with 109 rooms, 17 bathrooms, 3 full kitchens, a bowling alley, a boxing gym, and an indoor swimming pool. The estate cost $7.5 million to build in 1999, but its annual upkeep alone, utilities, taxes, staff, ran approximately $1 million per year. When he defaulted on a $10 million mortgage in 2008, the house went to foreclosure. Rapper Rick Ross eventually purchased it for $5.8 million in 2014.
That one of the family members borrowed money off my house. Now, everybody want to steal from me.
Wow.
And so, you know, it was one of them things that I didn't want to call them out and all this because they was open.
But the mansion was merely the most visible symptom of a deeper disease. Holyfield fathered 11 children with 6 different women, and his child support obligations exceeded $500,000 annually. By 2012, he reportedly owed $372,000 in arrears and faced the very real possibility of jail time if he didn't resolve the issue. 3 divorces compounded his problems, with his 2000 split from Janice Itzen costing millions in settlements. His business ventures fared no better. Holyfield invested $2 $2.3 million in Real Deal Records in 1999. Signing an R&B group called Exhale that flopped spectacularly. Failed car dealerships, defaulted landscaping loans, IRS liens. The financial body blows kept coming. In 2012, Holyfield was forced to auction off his most prized possessions, including the gloves he wore in the infamous bite fight against Tyson, his robes, and even his Olympic bronze medal. As he admitted in interviews at the time, "I was broke, had to sell everything but my soul." And while Holyfield's downfall came from spending, the next legend fell victim to a different enemy entirely: disastrous investments and tax traps. Roy Jones Jeter. There are fighters who are good, fighters who are great, and then there was Roy Jones Jr., a man so impossibly talented that watching him in his prime felt less like observing a boxing match and more like witnessing a magic trick performed at speed. Born in Pensacola, Florida, Jones compiled an amateur record of 121-13 before being robbed of Olympic gold in a controversial 1988 decision that still rankles boxing purists to this day.
Nobody to this day has come back and tried to fix it. They gave me Olympic orders. They gave me the Val Barker Cup, which is for the best boxer at the Olympics. Well, that's
How
contradiction.
crazy is that?
That's
How crazy
contradiction.
is that?
How is the best boxer here now wearing a gold medal?
Yeah, it was bad.
His professional career was nothing short of legendary. Jones remains the only boxer in history to start as a junior middleweight and win a heavyweight crown, holding titles in 4 weight classes. In his prime during the 1990s, he was virtually untouchable. Named Fighter of the Decade by the Boxing Writers Association, the Rings Fighter of the Year in 1994, 3-time ESPY Best Boxer winner. His career earnings topped $55 million from purses, pay-per-view bonuses, and sponsorships. And yet, by 2014, Roy Jones Jr. filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in Escambia County, Florida, listing assets under $50,000 against liabilities of $100,000 to $500,000. The collapse came from multiple directions simultaneously. Jones poured millions into real estate ventures and a recording studio that never turned profitable. As his promoter, Vladimir Hrunov, later explained, he put the money in businesses. A large number of real estate ventures and misallocation of payments led to serious problems. By 2015, Jones owed $3 million to the IRS, a debt so crushing that he actually obtained dual Russian citizenship and began fighting overseas, with Hrunov initially covering $1 million of his tax obligations. In 2018, 6 properties owned by Roy Jones Jr. Incas, totaling $534,022, were auctioned to pay debts. One of those properties housed his father, Roy Sr., sparking a GoFundMe campaign and headlines about potential eviction. Today, Jones's net worth has recovered somewhat to an estimated $7 to $10 million, bolstered by exhibition fights, including a $10 million payday for his 2020 bout against Mike Tyson and his work training and promoting young fighters. But the lesson remains stark. Even the most talented fighter of a generation couldn't outbox the financial haymakers waiting outside the ring. But long before modern superstars started losing millions, one of boxing's earliest heroes suffered the most brutal financial dismantling of them all. Joe Louis. If there's a tragedy that predates all others in this sad pantheon, it belongs to Joe Louis, the Brown Bomber, a man who transcended boxing to become a symbol of American resilience, racial progress, and wartime patriotism. His 12-year reign as heavyweight champion from 1937 to 1949 set records that may never be broken. 25 successful title defenses, more than any heavyweight in history. Louis earned approximately $4.6 million during his career, equivalent to roughly $60 million in today's dollars. But the man who defeated Nazi Germany's Max Schmeling in one of the most symbolically charged fights in boxing history couldn't defeat the most relentless opponent of all, the Internal Revenue Service. The tax system Louis navigated was brutal beyond modern comprehension. In 1914, the year Louis was born, the top income tax rate was a mere 7%. By the time Louis was earning his biggest purses in the 1940s, that rate had climbed to a staggering 90%. And the IRS showed no mercy to a man who had donated entire purses to wartime relief efforts. Louis's financial troubles were compounded by exploitative management. His managers, Roxborough and Black, took 50% of his purses. Promoter Mike Jacobs advanced loans for family perks, then later billed Louis for $250,000. His deal to fight James Braddock for the heavyweight title included a clause requiring Louis to pay Braddock 10% of his earnings for 10 years after the title win. After all the cuts, Louis saw less than 20% of his actual purses. His generosity compounded the problem. Louis bought homes and cars for his 7 siblings, funded his parents' education, handed $20 bills to strangers on the street, and even repaid the city of Detroit for any welfare money his family had received during the Depression. He invested in a string of businesses: the Joe Louis Restaurant, the Joe Louis Insurance Company, a softball team, a milk company, a drink called Joe Louis Punch, a horse farm, all of which failed. By 1950, Louis owed the IRS over $500,000. The debt forced him out of retirement at 36, leading to losses against Ezzard Charles and Rocky Marciano, the latter fight ending with Louis being knocked through the ropes in a moment that symbolized everything about his financial destruction. He refereed fights, appeared on quiz shows, and in perhaps the most humiliating turn, wrestled professionally into his 50s. In his final years, Louis worked as a greeter at Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas, earning $7,000 per month, modest stability after decades of IRS harassment. He died on April 12, 1981, just hours after watching Larry Holmes fight. His former rival, Max Schmeling, paid for part of his funeral, and Louis was buried at Arlington National Cemetery with full honors, a broke bomber at 66. And Louis's tragedy wasn't an isolated case. Decades later, another heavyweight champion repeated the same mistakes, only louder, faster, and with devastating consequences. Riddick Bowe. The story of Riddick Bowe begins in Brooklyn's Brownsville neighborhood, the same streets that produced Mike Tyson, where he was the 12th of 13 children raised by a single mother named Dorothy. His sister Brenda was stabbed to death in a 1988 robbery attempt. His brother Henry died from AIDS. Boxing became his way out, and what a talent he possessed. Bowe's amateur career was a masterclass in raw ability. New York City Golden Gloves champion multiple years running, gold at the 1985 Junior World Championships, silver at the 1988 Seoul Olympics after a controversial loss to Lennox Lewis. Under legendary trainer Eddie Futch, who called him his most promising pupil, Bowe turned pro in 1989 and compiled a flawless 31-0 record leading up to his title shot. On November 13, 1992, Bowe dethroned the unbeaten Evander Holyfield to become the undisputed WBA, WBC, and IBF heavyweight champion. At 25, the 6'5", 235-pound Big Daddy became the last American undisputed heavyweight champion, a title previously held by legends like Muhammad Ali and Joe Louis. His trilogy with Holyfield defined an era of heavyweight boxing. Bowe earned approximately $80 million during his career, and today, his net worth is estimated at somewhere between $30,000 and $50,000. The money disappeared in a blur of extravagance, bad decisions, and personal chaos. In 2005, Bowe filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, listing $1 to $10 million in assets against $4.1 million in liabilities, including $705,000 owed to a financial firm and $311,000 in credit card debt alone. He accused his manager, Rock Newman, of embezzling $15 million.
All my money was stolen.
By who?
I don't, well, can I say? Well, I believe my manager stole my money, Rock Newman.
Rock Newman stole your money.
But the financial troubles were merely one dimension of Bowe's collapse. His post-ring life featured an aborted enlistment in the Marine Corps. He quit after just 3 days of basic training. In 2000, he was convicted of interstate domestic violence after driving his family from North Carolina to Maryland against their will, serving 18 months in federal prison. His defense cited boxing-induced brain damage. By 2009, Bowe was hawking autographs at flea markets. Post-prison, he drove trucks and buses to make ends meet. "I'm not perfect, but I'm not the worst," he reflected with characteristic understatement. Today, he lives modestly in Maryland, occasionally signing gloves for $65 a pop. A former undisputed champion reduced to selling pieces of his glory days just to survive. But some fighters didn't just lose fortunes on themselves. They lost it trying to support everyone around them, including one of Detroit's greatest warriors. Thomas Hitman Hearns. They called him the Motor City Cobra for his Detroit roots and serpentine jab, but Thomas Hearns earned his more famous nickname, Hitman, through the devastating power of his right hand. Standing 6'1" with a 78-inch reach that seemed to telescope across the ring, Hearns revolutionized boxing by becoming the first fighter in history to win world titles in 5 different weight classes. His career record stands at 61-5-1 with 48 knockouts, a knockout rate of 78.7% that ranked him among the hardest punchers the Ring magazine magazine had ever measured. His wars with the Four Kings, Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran, Marvin Hagler, and himself, defined the golden age of 1980s boxing. His three-round war with Hagler in 1985 remains to this day perhaps the greatest 8 minutes ever witnessed in a boxing ring. Hearns earned an estimated $40 million during his career, over $100 million in today's dollars. By 2010, he was facing IRS debts exceeding $448,000 and foreclosure on his home. What happened? Hearns has spoken candidly about losing most of his fortune helping members of his large family. He was the youngest of 3 children from his mother's first marriage, but she had 9 kids total, and Thomas tried to support them all. Add a lavish lifestyle, a 1957 Chevy, 3 boats, a custom Harley-Davidson, ATVs, a Detroit mansion, and poor financial advice that led to unwise investments, and the money evaporated like morning dew. In April 2010, Hearns was forced to hold an auction at the auction block in Detroit, selling off pieces of his legacy to pay his debts. Robes from his Leonard fights went for $1 and $100, sweat-stained trunks, gloves, vehicles. All of it went under the hammer while fans watched in disbelief. "I'm very sad today," Hearns said at the time, "but I'm going to fulfill my obligations to the IRS." Today, Hearns' net worth is estimated at approximately $450,000. He lives in Southfield, Michigan, with his wife, Renee, focusing on charity work with Detroit youth. When asked about his financial journey, Hearns has shown remarkable grace. "I made a lot of money in boxing. Some of my robes were from fights with Leonard and Hagler, but family comes first." And while Hearns struggled under the weight of loyalty, the next champion was taken down by something even more crippling: the courts. Shane Mosley. Sugar Shane. Mosley earned his nickname as homage to the original Sugar Ray Robinson and Sugar Ray Leonard, legends whose sweet science he emulated with blistering speed and devastating power. A 3-division world champion with a professional record of 49-10-1 and 41 knockouts, Mosley was one of the most electrifying fighters of his generation, compiling victories over Oscar De La Hoya twice, Fernando Vargas, and Antonio Margarito. Mosley's career earnings topped $70 to $80 million, including massive paydays from his De La Hoya rematch and his 2011 bout with Manny Pacquiao. And yet, by 2015, Sugar Shane had filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, listing over $10 million in liabilities against minimal assets. The primary culprit, one of the most brutal divorce settlements in sports history. Mosley's 2011 split from his ex-wife Jin, who had also served as his manager, was absolutely devastating. Jin received half of everything: 3 homes, bank accounts, a Mercedes G-Wagon, a Cadillac Escalade, $600,000 in spousal support, and income from his fight library. But the cruelest blow? She took 2 of his championship belts, the WBC welterweight and IBF lightweight titles. To make matters worse, there was no prenup.
Yeah, she did take half my bread, and we did get, and then the belts, I kind of, they're my kids. Three belts I had.
By 2016, Mosley owed $180,000 in child support arrears, plus $85,000 in joint tax debts and $50,000 in attorney fees, totaling $315,000 owed to Jin alone. The Balco scandal had already cost him $500,000 in fines and legal fees, plus reputational damage that shortened his prime earning years. Today, Mosley's net worth has recovered to approximately $10 million, largely through training fighters, including his son Shane Jr., currently a ranked middleweight, and media appearances. But at 54, he's announced yet another comeback, scheduling a July 2025 bout in London. Critics on social media have been harsh, with one fan lamenting, "Why is Shane Mosley still boxing? Bruh. Retire." But divorce wasn't the only path to bankruptcy. For some fighters, the downfall began the moment fame arrived, including a man who once shocked the world by beating Ali. Leon Spinks. On February 15, 1978, in just his 8th professional fight, Leon Spinks accomplished the unthinkable. He defeated Muhammad Ali to become heavyweight champion of the world. It remains, to this day, one of the greatest upsets in boxing history. The man they called Neon Leon, for his electric personality and gap-toothed grin, had risen from poverty in St. Louis to Olympic gold in Montreal to the heavyweight throne in Las Vegas. Spinks earned over $4.5 million in career purses, equivalent to approximately $18 million in today's dollars. By 1986, he had filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, owing $301,000 to creditors. His reign lasted just 2 days. Stripped of the WBC belt for choosing an Ali rematch over fighting Ken Norton, Spinks lost unanimously in New Orleans Orleans before 72,000 fans, but his pre-fight preparation had already signaled disaster. "I got caught up in the fame too quickly," he later reflected, admitting to alcohol, cocaine, and marijuana use in the days leading up to the rematch. After Ellie, Spinks' career became a slow-motion train wreck. He fought Larry Holmes and lost. He challenged for the cruiserweight title against Dwight Muhammad Qawi and was stopped. He ventured into professional wrestling in the 1980s, losing by submission to Antonio Inoki in Japan. By the 1990s, he was a journeyman, earning as little as 20 sitki across 5 fights, leading to his bankruptcy. His post-boxing life included stints as a greeter at Mike Ditka's Chicago restaurant and as a YMCA janitor in Nebraska for minimum wage. Drug arrests followed. For a period, he lived in homeless shelters. A 2012 diagnosis of brain shrinkage from accumulated punches exacerbated his slurred speech and cognitive decline. Leon Spinks died on February 5, 2021 at 67 after a 5-year battle with prostate cancer that had spread to his bladder and bones. His family released a statement that perfectly captured his journey. His final fight was fought with the same skill, grace, and grit that had carried him through so many lifetime challenges. And Spinks wasn't alone. Another legend, one of the greatest lightweights ever, burned through his fortune with the same ferocity he showed in the ring. Roberto Duran. Manos de Piedra, hands of stone. The nickname perfectly captured the devastating power that Roberto Duran brought into the ring. Power forged in the slums of El Chorrillo in Panama City, where he was born to poverty so crushing that he later described his childhood with a single word: mierda, shit. Duran's career spanned 5 decades, an almost incomprehensible achievement in boxing. He compiled a record of 103-16 with 70 knockouts, winning world titles in 4 weight classes. His 1980 victory over Sugar Ray Leonard in the brawl in Montreal remains one of the sport's iconic moments. His lightweight reign from 1972 to 1979, 12 defenses, 11 by knockout, cemented him as arguably the greatest 135-pounder who ever lived. Duran earned an estimated $20 million during his prime, a fortune that should have set him up for life in Panama, where the cost of living is a fraction of American cities. Instead, he squandered virtually all of it on parties, women, alcohol, gambling, cockfights, luxury cars, and a sprawling estate. "I was young, rich, and stupid," Duran later admitted, words that echo Mike Tyson's reflections with eerie similarity. But perhaps nothing captures Duran's desperate financial straits quite like the belt theft scandal of 1993. His 5 world title belts, the physical manifestation of his life's work, were stolen from his Panama home in a robbery allegedly orchestrated by his own brother-in-law. The belts surfaced when memorabilia dealer Luis Gonzalez Baez attempted to sell them to undercover FBI agents. Baez claimed Duran had authorized the $100,000 sale because he was facing financial ruin. Duran denied it, calling the betrayal something that hurt more than any punch. Today, Duran's net worth is estimated at approximately $3 million stable, but a mere shadow of what could have been. He lives quietly in Panama, a national hero whose statue graces his old gym. He survived a 2020 COVID-19 hospitalization at 69, reportedly quipping afterward, "I beat viruses like I beat Buchanan," but even Duran's chaos pales compared to the man whose single miracle upset earned him millions and whose downfall became one of the sport's harshest cautionary tales. James Buster Douglas. And finally, we come to the most improbable story of all. James Buster Douglas, a man who climbed boxing's Everest with one miraculous punch and then tumbled into its abyss with almost equal speed. On February 11, 1990, Douglas entered the Tokyo Dome as a 42-1 underdog against Mike Tyson, the undefeated, undisputed heavyweight champion and the most feared man on the planet. Tyson was at his physical peak. Douglas was grieving. His mother, Lula, had died of a stroke just 23 days earlier.
It wasn't even booked. That was just something they came up with after the fact. You know, it was, maybe say when one casino had it, but everybody else was nothing. It wasn't even couldn't even figure out how they...
What happened next shocked the world. Douglas dominated with jabs and right crosses, swelling Tyson's eyes shut. In round 10, he unleashed a right uppercut followed by a 6-punch flurry that floored the champion. Tyson rose at the count of 10 but collapsed. Referee Octavio Marin waved it over. The upset, bigger than the 1980 U.S. hockey miracle on ice by virtually any measure, made Douglas an instant legend. The victory earned Douglas approximately $24 million in total payouts. 8 months later, he defended against Evander Holyfield in Las Vegas. Overweight at 245 pounds, 14.5 pounds heavier than against Tyson, and visibly out of shape, Douglas was stopped in round 3. He pocketed another $24 million but retired immediately thereafter. Life unraveled with breathtaking speed. By 1994, Douglas had ballooned to 400 pounds. His blood sugar had hit 800, diabetic coma territory, landing him in a hospital. He lost millions to bad investments, divorce, and the IRS, which claimed $18.1 million in back taxes on his Tyson purse. In 1996, he filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, owing $15 to $20 million against just $400,000 in assets. Today, Douglas has found peace. Post-coma, he slimmed to 260 pounds, reconciled with his father, and embraced faith. He mentors youth at the Blackburn Recreation Center in Columbus, the same gym where his father taught him to box as a child. Now 65, married with 2 children, his net worth has recovered to an estimated $15 million from residuals and speaking engagements. His legacy? The upset that humanized Tyson and proved that on any given night, David can slay Goliath. But also this, a warning that even the greatest victory of your life cannot protect you from the consequences of the choices you make once the cheering stops. Well, that's it for this video. But don't go anywhere because we've got plenty more heat for you. Just tap any of the cards on your screen right now and keep it locked.